Hi guys, thank you so much for being here. So today I am going to tackle this spread, which is a huge mess. Like, I don't even know what to do with this, but I'm gonna try to figure it out while I record. So that way, if you encounter this problem where you just don't know what to do with your spread or your painting or a page, and you're just like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start, then maybe this will help a little bit and maybe we can figure it out together. So the very first thing I want to do is I do have some kind of vague outlines of some figures over here, and I want to kind of work on those figures a little bit. So I am going to say make some hair over here, and I'm gonna try to work without thinking too much, and just go with what I'm kind of feeling. So I want to do, I think I want to bring in another figure over here because I have all this empty space that's not really looking very good on this page. So let me see here. And okay, I think maybe I'm gonna make a figure right there. And the great thing about art journaling is I'm not even going for realism. Like, you know, if I wanted to have 5 suns on the page, then I'm gonna have 5 suns on the page. Like, anything goes. And that's one of the magical things about working in my art journal. I mean, you can do that when you're working on a canvas as well. It's just when I'm working in my art journal, I'm so much freer to do that. So I think okay. And I'm gonna make some hair for her. So as you can see, 2 of these figures are kind of large and then 2 of them are smaller. So like I said, in art journaling, I'm not really concerned about that at all. So I think what I want to do here is I'm liking this part and I want to kind of make a moon or some kind of a circular figure shape here. So I'm going to do that. And like I said, if I wanted to put, like, you know, 3 suns or some abstract shape, then I can do that. I feel so much freedom in my art journals. So I'm going to retain that and maybe even double it up. Okay. Now, one of the very simple things I can do to just simply bring a sense of cohesion to this page is put a solid color in the background. So what I'm going to do, because I have so many bright colors here, is I'm going to use a neutral. And I think what I want to do is go with a lighter neutral. So I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in Cashew, and I'm going to put a little bit of the ink in there. So that way it just has a tad bit of color, but it's still going to be light. And that's one thing I know to instantly bring a sense of cohesion to the page, that I can kind of get some clarity on what's going on, because it's so messy right now. I can't even focus. Like, okay, so I'm just gonna lay this down here. And I really love this little pink part, but I'm gonna have to cover it up. So I've mentioned this before, but I just want to mention it again because it's worth repeating. This Waverly chalk paint in the two colors cashew and ink, it will give you an infinite array of really lush neutrals. And you don't need to stick to the grays, because if I dip a little bit of this, say, Liquitex acrylic ink burnt sienna, if I dip that in to this mix, it's going to give it a neutral, but it's going to be slightly tinged with, like, say, a brown kind of a neutral. So, you know, just by these two colors, you can make so many rich neutrals, and I just simply love it. It's a staple of my studio, and it's really not expensive at all, and a little goes a long way, and it lasts for a really long time. So see, instantly it's calming everything down, and I'm not even complete yet. So I'm gonna go here. And see how the neutrals really make the colors pop, because when everything is too bright, then the brightness loses its power. But when it's juxtaposed with the neutrals, then it really makes the brights pop. And that's with anything, really. You know, when you're just contrasting things, it really brings out the best of both of the different elements. I hope that makes sense. Another thing, since I've started making YouTube videos, is I realized how difficult it is for me to paint and talk at the same time. I don't know why, but maybe it's just me, but sometimes I will stop talking and I'll completely lose my thought. And I even forget that I'm recording because I'm so focused on painting. So it's just something that I'm trying to get used to, because usually I'm listening to a podcast or music, or, you know, an audiobook or something like that while I'm painting. So as you can see, this is calming everything down considerably. And I'm still going to work on the face and the hair, so I'm not going to keep everything bright as it is. So that was a very simple way that I calmed this whole page down. It's just making a solid ground. Now I still have this little part here to do. So as you can see, I can actually think now. I'm not saying that I don't have a lot more stuff to do, but I can actually see what is going on. Whereas before, it was so busy and so crazy, I really couldn't even kind of figure out what was what. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to make that face a solid color. And that's going to calm everything down as well. Just making all the faces solid. Now, what I want to do is, I think I want to make some of the dresses solid, and I'm going to keep, like, I think I'm going to keep that one the way it is, and maybe I'm going to, maybe I'm gonna like make this blue over here, like a solid blue maybe. So that's a thing, when there's a lot of patterns and colors and busyness going on, it really helps to tone down not just the background but other parts of the painting as well, and that way the busy parts and the interesting parts can look more interesting. But if everything is too interesting, then nothing is interesting. And it's the same thing with colors. Like if I was just gonna have a whole bunch of bright colors like I did at the start of this layout, then if there's too many, if everything is too bright and interesting and there's too much going on, then those bright colors are gonna lose their power, because it doesn't have anything to contrast with. So there's got to be a balance. And you know, like just say I had made the background a bright red, for instance. Well, I could have done that and it could have worked, but then my next decisions would be different than the decisions I'm making with a neutral background. And that's what I meant when I said that painting is a series of decisions. Just, you know, make a decision, and then that decision is going to determine the decision you make after that. It's just like one decision after another after another. And you just never know, like you might think, oh, well, this is gonna work, and then you do it and then it doesn't work, and that's totally fine. It's just a process of pushing and pulling, of discovering what is going to work and what is not going to work. So I'm just gonna kind of bring some cohesion to the face over here. And what I want to do is, okay, so I've made that solid. I think I'm gonna make this solid as well. Oh, I'm gonna make this partially solid, I'm thinking. So maybe a yellow. So I'm gonna bring that in here and kind of create some cohesion here. And sometimes I really hate to get rid of these beautiful bits of color here. I'm gonna try to see if I can retain it somehow, like retain a little bit of it, just because I don't want to cover it all up. But sometimes that's not gonna work and I have to cover it all up. Okay, so that's toned it down a little bit. And I think I'm gonna leave this as is, and then I think I'm gonna work on this over here a little bit. So I'm just gonna mix my yellow because I already have it on my palette, and I'm gonna mix it with my blue, and I get a really delicious green there. So I'm really kind of liking this a lot more than when I first started, because when I first started, it was like just crazy. There was so much going on. I couldn't even like figure out what to do. So this has really toned it down quite a bit. Okay. So I think I've asked this question before, but I'm gonna ask it again. When I'm doing something really repetitive, like say I'm just doing the background here, I'm not sure if people who are watching, if you guys wanted me to fast forward through that, because it's really boring to just see me applying this background, or if you want to see like everything in real time. Sometimes I'm unsure about what to speed up. I know a lot of times people don't like watching art tutorials when it's on a time lapse, and I'm one of those people. I don't like that because I can't see what's going on. There's no explanation, and I really can't see and understand what is what. But this is a very repetitive part. I'm just doing the background. So if anybody has any preferences on that, I would really appreciate it in the comments. Thank you so much. Okay, so I am happy with that right now, the way it is. What I'm gonna do is I am gonna work on the hair, because the hair is just like really busy to me, and I'm not particularly liking that. And I think what I want to do is I'm gonna drop some of this burnt sienna here in all of the hair, because when I do that, it just gives it kind of like some variation. So even if I add a brown or a black over top of it, it's still going to be varied. It's not going to be a flat color. So I hope I'm making sense. Okay, I'm just gonna, that's my first layer right there. And I know it is looking a bit of a mess right now, but it will calm down. Okay, so actually I'm gonna drop a little bit of the ink, which is the chalk paint and ink. I'm gonna drop it in here. And I want it kind of watered down because I don't want it to be like, I don't want it to be this flat black color. And the reason why is because there's 4 figures. So if I'm gonna have like 4 fields of flat color, it's not going to juxtapose well with the flat background, it's going to be too much of the same. So it's going to be like really static and kind of boring actually. If the background was all busy, then I could have a flat field of color for the hair. But the way it is right now, it's going to be too boring if there's a flat background and then the flat hair, and then, you know, it's just not going to provide enough interest to the page, to the layout. So I think I'm going to keep that little bit of pink over there. And I didn't want there to be a part 2 of this, but I think there's gonna have to be, because I want this to completely dry and I don't want to use my glue gun. I'm sorry, not my glue gun, my heating tool. I don't want to use my heating tool. So I think there might be a part 2 to this video. And now I may just leave this the way it is for right now. I'm not feeling like I have to do something with the hair over here for right now. I may come back later and do something, but okay. So I'm just gonna blot some of that out. And I think what I want to do is bring in another coat of the yellow over here, just to brighten it up a little bit. Okay, so that has calmed the page down considerably, and I'm very happy with the way the page is going. I've still got a long way to go because I've still got to work on, say, the faces and the facial features, figure out, you know, I think I'm going to cover that up. I was going to keep it, but it's just looking kind of too busy, so I think I'm going to just keep some of it. And let me... kind of go like that and push it back a little bit. So even if you can see some of the pattern, it's not all of the pattern, so it's not so prominent as it was. And I think I'm going to add some color to the face here. The face needs a little bit of color. I think I'm gonna get rid of this part of the neck as well and just tone it down a bit. Okay, so I am actually quite happy with this and where it's going. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it completely dry, and then I'm going to come back and hopefully I can, you know, finish it off, put some facial features, maybe do another coat for the background, and bring in some inks and lines and marks, and really kind of give it that extra zing to it. So if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much for being here. And this is how I am taming a page that got out of control. It was a big mess. So I've tamed it down now, and I'm really liking the direction that it's going in. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.